Next up, we've got Asana Sayara. She's a Palestinian youth and social justice resistor, vocal activist, human rights promoter and influencer, currently studying social work at Sydney University. Her dream is not just to focus on creating change on an individual level, but to perpetuate this change to the broader structural level. Asana is co-founder of A Piece of Palestine. A Piece of Palestine is a cultural organisation centred around celebrating Palestinian culture and identity, and also has partnered with UNRWA, United Nations Workers Relief Agency, as part of their Dignity is Priceless campaign. Welcome, Asana.
Can you all hear me? Al-Asli, Asil, Asala. What does it mean to be authentic? It means to stick to your roots, to be who you are regardless of context and time. It means to solidify your identity in the midst of a world that aims to break you and forget who you are. It means to allow your identity to blossom. Today, with all pride, I say that my roots lie in Shajarat al-Zaytun, in Zayt al-Zaytun, in Kharaf, in Beit Lahem, in Al-Quds, and in the words of Yamma Uyaba. It is my roots that constantly take me back, physically and mentally, to my homeland, my motherland, Palestine. July 2018, I hopped on the plane with my cousin Amira, and halfway through my flight trip, I looked at the world map, and I directed myself to the Palestinian map, and this image on the screen made me imagine and wonder how life would be if there was an airport in Palestine now. It made me realize that this geographic location located on the world map may be to someone who was sitting near me, nothing to them. But to me, it was a destination that I constantly dream of, the destination that I finally arrived to after passing checkpoints and initially remaining at the Israeli checkpoint for hours, due to my cousin being interrogated and due to our hearts telling us to remain to assist a young Palestinian mother from Gaza who was stopped at the Israeli checkpoint for more than 19 hours with her children on the edge of a breakdown. This is the beginning of my 2018 volunteering trip in Palestine. And I decided to share this in the beginning of my talk because I want to emphasize the impact of the presence of the occupation, which controls every aspect of the life of Palestinians. The trip was different for many reasons, and I could speak about the trip all day and show you photos and videos, but I want to emphasize, I want to highlight certain events that have stuck in my heart and in my mind and reminded me what it means to stick to your roots. As I meet the future of Palestine, which I consider the youth and young children, I met Aboud. I met Aboud while I was on the tour at Aida refugee camp, which was facilitated by the co-founder of Volunteer Palestine. Aboud eventually became my friend. He has a very interesting personality. I always looked forward every morning to get to the camp, as he was the first one that I would say to, Sabah al-Khair, Aboud. Aboud worked in his father's store and managed the store, and he sold merchandise that was handcrafted from the remainings of the incursions that happened at Aida refugee camp. But what was really interesting was the box that he hides under his desk. A box of the bombs that he had collected from the incursions that occurred. And then I asked him, Aboud, "Why do you hide that box under the desk?" I knew his answer. I had a deep understanding, but I wanted to capture and record his voice. I wanted him to amplify his voice and to tell his own story. Another vital event that took place while I was in Palestine was the talent show. Mawhibati Ana, my talent. I proposed the idea to the manager of Aida Youth Centre, Anas, and he supported me. And I worked with the team at the centre and with other volunteers to organise the event and to include the children in the event. And the purpose of the event was for empowerment, and it was to give the opportunity for the youth and young children to recognise their own strength and to work on their talent. And I can tell you there were great discoveries. It really touched my heart to see the children plan for their performance and perform from their heart. As an individual who considers themselves as an opportunist, I had a deep understanding how such events and such opportunities have an impact on the self-esteem and the health of individuals. Another experience was attending the funeral of Arkan Mizher from Mukhayyam Idhirsha. Nothing can explain what I was feeling when I was walking with my people. There were mixed of emotions and mixed of thoughts, and I was about to lose hope. But as I heard the chanting of the woman behind me and Arkan's mother, I was injected with hope. I was injected with motivation and determination to continue with what I'm doing. But today, with assurance, I can say that my people are the meaning of resistance, because my people speak resistance, do resistance, and bleed resistance. In my stay, I tried to explore different cities, and I discovered that each city has its own uniqueness. And even being driven around and observing the olive trees and the clear sky and the harvest was fulfilling to my heart. But then it was time to leave. But I knew that my mind and soul will never leave. Because when the land calls you, how can you reject that call? But I knew that my heart is attached to the land. Because I discovered that every time I return back home, I get attached. Just the way a young child gets attached to their mother.